are off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure to be joined by none other than Natalie Ferrari Morton, the woman, the power behind East Van Jam. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. For those of you that are tuning in via iTunes or SoundCloud, you'll have to sneak over to YouTube and have a look at the venue in which we're at right now. I had the pleasure of being invited into Natalie's backyard, this oasis of a garden that I've only seen from afar via the social media platforms, but it's an absolute pleasure to be here today, and thank you so much for your time as the sun just starts to come out.
Nice.
Perfectly. So to give the viewers and the listeners a bit of a background on who you are and how East Van Jam came to be, can you paint that picture for us? Tell us that story quickly.
Sure. First and foremost, I had babies.
Okay.
Yeah, babies are kind of what started my thinking to change. It created a shift in my perspective.
Right.
And also, as you can see above you, there are these two beautiful plum trees.
Right.
Two of them. Just one produces a lot of fruit. Two of them produces a lot more fruit.
Okay.
So those kind of factors played together to kind of start things off in a small way. And as I became a mom to number two, I chose not to go back to my corporate job, and it was our family decision to have me stay home and be the primary caregiver to our kids,
right.
which I had mixed feelings about, but for the most part, really comfortable doing. But very quickly realized I was really bored as far as needing more stimulation in the adult world. So I was brainstorming, and I started with a friend of mine. I started teaching canning classes in the evening. So being able to make my own schedule and still be around and available for my kids. And through that canning class schedule and through meeting more people in the community, I was able to kind of hone what a bit of a niche for myself.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was teaching low sugar jam as like an intro to canning, and a lot of folks in the class themselves were like, well, I love this, but I know I'm not going to make 14 flavors of this for myself. How come I can't buy a low sugar jam on the shelf?
Right.
And there began East Van Jam.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's how you and I first met, was one of your, I think it was called a preserves.
Yeah, I think we were doing pickles or something.
Yeah, which was awesome. And I went home and bought the jars and started pickling. It was amazing. It was interesting, though. I was thinking about that exact experience as I was driving here today. And pickling for me reminded me of, as a kid, what did we call them when we would make a box of stuff and we would bury it and then like a time capsule.
Yes, yeah.
So the pickling reminds me of a time capsule because
that's really smart.
As a kid, I think my time capsule lasted about 3 days.
Right.
And I wanted to go dig it back up.
Yeah.
And I was the exact same with the preserving. I understand the process should be, Brad, let it go.
Yeah. Let the brine get into the
Exactly. But my impatience got the best of me because all those flavors just spoke to me.
Yeah.
And I just started eating it before it actually, I'm sure.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. So that brings us to where we are today, East Van Jam. I've been lucky enough to see you and the brand grow quite a bit over the past few years, and seeing it on the shelves of a lot of retail shops. And as someone who consumes your product, I'm super proud to see what you've done with it.
That's awesome.
Speaking to the brand itself, for those that have seen it or have yet to experience it, the art and the calligraphy that is the brand East Van Jam, where does that come from and how did that start?
That was my main focus was because I'm doing what we call a Me Too product. It's kind of in the category of traditional preserves.
Okay.
I really wanted to set it apart from the kind of I don't want to like downplay, but the kind of classic granny sort of look.
Right.
Because it wasn't exactly a Me Too. in the sense that a lot of research and science has to go into creating a product that is still shelf stable, but that still offers the low sugar option. So in doing that, a very, very dear friend of mine, my husband went to university with him.
Okay.
He's an amazing artist, and he would come to our house, and like 2 weeks after he'd left, we'd find a little portrait of some made up person, some character. And he just like posted at the back of a door we never close or something.
Right.
And so it was just like his little quirk, and we really love his artwork. And
can we give him a shout out?
Yeah, his name's Scott Bilstad.
Scott Bilstad.
Yeah.
And can we find his art anywhere else? Is he local in Vancouver?
No, he's Seattle based.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
he and his family live in Seattle. And no, he he doesn't he does it as a a passion
side
thing.
gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
He's in fact been asked after many times in
I bet.
getting my brand out there, and he's like, no, I don't want any clients, like I'm not interested.
Oh, cool.
So I'm very lucky that he does it for me, and he does it for me for trade.
Wow.
Like, I make him things. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's really right.
Back to the prune trees that we have the
These are not prune trees. I just want to make sure it's clear. They're beautiful orange, like amazing plums are called Santa Clara.
Plums, pardon me.
Yeah,
plums, pardon me, yeah. So the plum trees.
They're not Italian prune plums, yeah.
So the plum trees, take us back to this, when you guys moved into this space, these were obviously already here.
Yeah, yep.
And once you saw the bounty they provided, that's kind of what got the ball rolling as far as what are we going to do with
it.
It
was one of the factors, yeah.
Right.
One of the factors. I mean, the neighborhood is very used to all enjoying these plums.
Okay.
And so there'd never be a problem about getting them eaten. And
right.
They never go to waste, whether I would put them in a jar or not.
Right.
So that part wasn't a big issue, but it definitely spurred on one of the first characters, like St. Clair Plum is one of the first characters. She's a nun holding a East Van cross.
Right.
So kind of like all these little character elements kind of pulled together with this particular character and this fruit. So
cool.
It was a major starting point for sure.
Do you think, this is a deep, deep question, but do you think that if it wasn't for this home on this plot of land with these trees, East Van Jam would be here?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of bits and bobs really came into play. Like just the fact that, you could go back forever if you want, meeting my husband and having an interest in botany and gardening. Like we fell in love in a tomato patch. Like,
oh, cool.
Yeah. Like, so that's a real big part of our history. And, looking for a home in Vancouver was crazy at the time. It's even worse now.
Yeah.
But the place we rented before moving here, we had this little corner of space to dig our hands into, and it made a really big difference in our lives. And we knew that was a major focus for what we were going to move on to.
Awesome.
So when we found a place that no one else wanted because it had a Italian tile bomb that went off in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of intense tile
inside
our home, some of which has been mitigated, some isn't.
Right.
But
you just embrace it.
Yeah. And so, I think a lot of people were scared of the place, but it was our backyard that really, and there's an apple tree in the front and these two plum trees. So it was like, it felt really good for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it is, I mean, and I don't want to overplay it and be sarcastic at all. It is quite tranquil back here and it's quite nice. And I know for me, even the small bit of gardening that we now do at home on our patio, it does make a difference in your day to get a little bit of dirt underneath your fingernails.
Absolutely.
And be around these extremely live things.
Totally. I mean, our friends are making fun of us, and I've made fun of myself. Our tomatoes, you can see over there, like most tomato plants that have been transplanted are about 4 or 5 inches high. These are like a foot.
They're beasts.
They're huge. And that means we're growing them in February. And for our sanity, it was so nice to be growing them in February.
I bet.
So.
And what do you use? I mean, not to get off on a tangent here on the garden. This isn't a gardening show, but we'll just go with it. We were told, and we were using turkey poop.
Oh, yeah? That's a good one.
Are you using anything to help assist in the growth?
We have some, it's, I think, just steer manure.
Okay.
Every other year or so, we throw in some.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We have a couple of Italians who live just 2 doors up, and we pool our planning and resources
amazing.
to get a big load dropped off.
the essence of what a community is.
Yeah, it's great. I love it when this huge old Italian guy comes up to my front door. Natalie, I think we're gonna get some manure this year. You want to go in on it? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Now, are you Italian or is?
I am.
Okay.
I'm a half Italian.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
You did. I was going to say just because your accent was spot on and your hand gestures were fantastic.
Yeah.
Lindsay, my partner, comes from Italian background as well, so she'll
Awesome.
appreciate the Italiano in your
Wicked.
talk. Before we got on the mic and hit record today,
Yeah.
we were talking a little bit in depth about challenges that you have, and not just you, but other small businesses in the province and in the country that they face in regards to just, I want to create something, so I'm going to create it.
Mm-hmm.
But it just isn't that simple. So bring us up to speed today to the challenges that you've had and how you deal with those to keep pushing forward.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned in that period before you turn the mics on,
Mm-hmm.
I might not do this again, knowing now, if I had known then what I know now, I might not have pursued this path.
Right.
And I don't mean to say that it's like, it's not terrible. I have learned a tremendous amount, and I feel really good about having overcome a lot of challenges. But I definitely know now that it's really not for the faint of heart. You have to have a good set of balls to really move forward and
Right.
keep going and have enough people around you that are just, not just cheerleading, but also detractors that help, that are supporting you, but are asking you the tough questions and not just always saying, yeah, go for it, I believe in you. Like, it's important to actually have those people that are questioning you and making sure that you've got your shit
Together
and ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So with a packaged food item, the main challenges are when you decide you're not going to sell it direct anymore.
Okay.
So there's enough hoops to jump through to get to the farmer's market, for example.
Right.
The farmer's market's not generally my crowd, in the sense that I could make them my crowd. I don't want to spend my weekends that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my 2 young kids, and the time's going so fast. I don't want to not spend time with them.
Right.
So I've made it a focus to go wholesale and get to the retail shelves. And in doing that, there's plenty of hoops that you jump through. They're very, I imagine they're quite different than someone who's trying to do a brick and mortar or something.
Right.
But I don't know. How specific do you want to get?
And is there anything that really sticks out where you look back and you're like, man, if I knew that this one thing was as involved as it was, I don't know if I would have got into this. Is it just the red tape of it? Is it the paperwork? Is it you have to adapt something that was so unique and simple as a product, but now it has to be a certain way?
Okay. Well, I'll go in that direction. For example, I really enjoyed the magic of creating
Mm-hmm.
and the creativity of food pairing, flavor pairing. And I'm not unhappy about my recipes, but I don't really get to experiment anymore.
Right.
It's a little bit more just producing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And it's not because I don't love to still do that creative process, but it's the regulations of it all that
Right.
actually pigeonhole you into doing it the way you're doing it.
Right.
So the reason behind that is you have to have all the manner of labeling requirements met before you can get it to a retail shelf. Basically, the rule is as soon as you're not selling it direct to the customer, where the customer has access to you to ask questions and find out info,
Makes sense.
you have to have everything clear as day
Right.
on the label. So you have to have your recipes tested. So once they're lab tested, you can't change them.
Wow.
And then you have to have nutrition tables to match that recipe, and then it's forever the same.
Right.
So I just had a retailer actually ask me that question. Like, we'd love to showcase anything that you do as a specialty or like
Right,
just a
one-off,
one-off.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I would love that,
Right.
but
I
it's
can't.
not a risk I'm willing to take, because if I get caught putting something on a shelf in a retail setting that isn't meant to be there because of those things, then it's my ass on the line. I have insurance and stuff, but
You just don't want to deal with that.
no, literally, like, I don't want the CFAA's attention.
No.
Like, they're a great resource, and I've definitely taken advantage of them as a resource to make sure everything's in line.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, I don't want to then go around the rules so that, because you could so easily get shut down.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
One slip up, right?
Yeah.
The wrong person picks up the wrong jar, and then all of a sudden everything comes crumbling down. You don't want that.
Totally, yeah.
In an ideal world, my father always said, if you have a magic wand. So as you're sitting there and you're describing your situation to me, magic wand situation, if you had the capability or the opportunity to bring on a partner and he or she was the one that handled all of that, they thrived in that side as far as the red tape and making sure everything follows and falls into the proper boxes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, if you know that person, let me know.
No, but I mean, would that really change? Would that be a paradigm shift for you? Would you feel like you could go back to Natalie, the creator, as opposed to Natalie, the woman that's ticking boxes?
Well, to be fair, I do actually enjoy a bunch of the red tape stuff as far as like learning, having learned how to like navigate it.
For sure.
I definitely felt really blind when these things started kind of becoming clear that I had to deal with them. But now that I know a lot of that, I do feel a lot more comfortable navigating all of that. But yeah, if I had a magic wand, I would be in a place where I can do both. I would like to have the back end, like the majority of the square footage of a place,
right,
dedicated to my wholesale accounts.
Right.
But the front end, small, like 30%, small retail setting where I can do tiny individual, one-off batches and just have folks who are excited about having this particular one and they come in and that's the only place they can get it. Right. That kind of thing. And serve baked goods that go with jam and stuff like that. So that's my magic wand situation. Is that
sorry to interrupt, is that a goal of yours? Is that a realistic goal? Is that something that we could see in the next 3-5 years?
I don't like to say too much out loud because then I promise the
you're
world myself.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. I'm the opposite. I just say it all and then don't do any of it.
See, I don't know. I guess I'm the personality that's a little chicken shit.
Cool.
So
we'll leave it at big maybe.
I would love for that to happen. That is my mind's goal.
Cool.
Whether it comes
I
think
there's so much space for that, and talking about you doing the preserving nights and doing that at night and kind of finding what the market was demanding and then reacting to that demand. I think that's such a smart way to go. And what a gift as well. Yeah. What a gift that you were given.
A little bit of an accidental entrepreneur, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I think one of the best ways to find it, because you're stepping into it with that knowledge of like, hey, there is a space for this.
Right.
And I think personally for me that I'm seeing and watching places like you kind of described, especially places that are based around just really high quality baked goods. They're thriving.
People like butter and flour.
People like butter and flour. I mean, look at sourdough, right? Like sourdough just in itself is blowing up and has been for years down in San Francisco, and now it's just getting bigger and bigger here. So I would love to see that for you. That would be awesome. And I think again, from a branding aspect, how cool would it look to have
it'd be great.
one of your characters up on a wall. It was so cool. Anyway, I digress. So speaking as an entrepreneur and someone who's doing their own thing, how is that as a mom, as a partner, as an entrepreneur? How do you balance your day-to-day life, and what does that look like?
Well, it's much better now than it used to be.
Okay.
Starting the business as going from the teaching classes to creating a product. My kids were really small still. Right. Like my youngest is 8 now, and I think so we're 2. Yeah, so that was 5 years ago. He was pretty small still. Yeah. And I was doing nights. Like my husband would come home from work, and I would leave and go to the kitchen and produce, and I'd be there till 2 a.m.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, wow.
Crappy.
Yeah.
And in the summers too, when they're not at school the next day, Che was not. He was 3.5, and so he wasn't at school anyway. So there was a good chunk of time that it really sucked, I have to say. Right. I was a bad mom. I'm sure, like no one wants to hear anyone say you're a bad mom. Right. But I didn't feel like an awesome mom on those days where I was like so tired in the morning I couldn't really keep it together. Yeah. So it's better now, which is great. Like everyone's got a daytime schedule.
Oh, nice. You found your groove a little bit.
Yeah. It's, your kids get older and you find the time and the structure to make it work. So I get to, I'm my own boss, so I get to be home when I need to be home with my kids. And they're old enough that they can also be home for an hour by themselves. And
awesome.
They go to school really close by. So it's, so there are really nice factors that make it more feasible. My partner has been amazing. Like, he was kind of dubious to start. He's like, who's gonna, a jam company? What?
Yeah.
Including my dad also, actually. They've been, big cheerleaders, but also those important detractors that are just like, you really got to think this through. And I've been so proud to be able to prove to them that it's possible. But yeah, my he's lugged a lot of boxes and helped me get to shows and stuff like that, I couldn't do it alone.
That's so important.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so important to have, whether it's an intimate partner or just a friend, that can really kind of challenge you, but also support you at the same time and balance you and be like, hey, wake up. Like, this is not just, if you want it to be a side thing, it'll always be a side thing. But if you want for it to be a big thing, you're going to have to dig in. And to that point, whether it's this industry or any other industry, do you feel like that sufferfest that you went through in being, quote unquote, a bad mom, do you feel like that is necessary for entrepreneurs in business to succeed? Does it have to suck for a little bit? Or sacrifice, I should say.
I don't want to, toot a horn too loudly, but the people who keep it going are the ones who can hack it.
Right. The cream rises to the top.
Yeah, I really think, because I've seen, not a lot, but, when the really going gets rough, a lot of people just are like, I don't need this stress in my life. And they just kind of sit down and back off. I think there are some people who really do, I don't know if it's because they're competitive or if they are so self-confident. I'm not sure. Those two things aren't necessarily true for me. The competitiveness, I am a bit, for sure. But as I mentioned, lacking in some self-confidence has really challenged me to still get out there and to still push forward. I think sometimes you might hear entrepreneurs thinking, expressing that sometimes you can't figure out whether you believe in your idea so much that you have tunnel vision, or if your idea is actually so good that it's going to work. Right. So, and I have to admit, I've been a bit of both, probably more the tunnel vision than just so much confidence that it's the right thing. Yeah. You kind of have to, like, to be able to push through and deal with the challenges and actually leap those hurdles, because there's a lot of opportunity where you might want to just lie down and put your head under a pillow. Yeah,
that's easy, right?
It's hard. It's hard because failure hurts, and failure is a scary thing. But it's not. You shouldn't let it keep you from trying and trying hard.
So if someone is listening and they are entrepreneur, male, female, and they make really good salsa.
Okay.
Right? And their friends keep telling them, you should sell this.
Right.
From someone who's been there and is doing it, you would say,
take one of two paths. Either don't do your research and just go balls out and just dive in, or do all your research and get all your ducks in a row, and really consider it before jumping in. That's not helpful.
No, it's good. I mean, I think that speaks to people, because a lot of people, like for me, I'm all about the ideas and lacking a bit with the execution. So give me a creative task and I will crush it. But give me, bring this to life. Then that's where I'm personally am challenged by those things, like the red tape and ticking the boxes. That really does challenge me. But I can see what you said in going through that. You learn a ton, and you become more appreciative of it and what it takes for your brand or other brands to thrive. It's not just as easy as staying up till 2 a.m. and producing a product. There's a lot more that goes into it.
That's a really good point. because I sometimes find myself just wanting to stay in the production mode, and just because I know it.
Exactly.
There's a
It's
map.
comfortable.
It's something I can, the outcome is consistent.
Right.
But yeah, there's, like I was saying much earlier, there's a lot of things to moving something like this forward, in that you really have to have the balls to make cold calls. You have to have enough gumption to be like, I'm going to get a distributor, and these are the distributors I'm going to target, and I'm going to have that goal accomplished by the end of this is me actually talking out loud.
I love it.
I don't have this, done
Yeah.
before 2018 is up,
Yeah.
and so there are, again, it's, if you're not familiar with the landscape, it's hard to navigate it. Like, it's hard to know who the contacts are, who the people are that you need to talk with. Whether it's for a retail shop or a distributor that's going to get you to many more retail shops.
Exactly. So do you find those conversations are coming a bit more naturally now that your brand is out there, and not tooting your horn, it's a recognizable brand, especially locally. People know it. People know of it. They've tried it, or they
which
know someone has tried it.
excites me to no end, by the way. Like, I
Cool.
still
That's
feel
awesome.
like totally surprised by that.
And that's amazing. I
And
think that's such a humble attribute in any entrepreneur, to still be like, that's like, people want to buy my product. That's so amazing, and hang on to that as long as.
And
you
when
can.
someone comes up like, oh, I've seen your stuff, I'm like, where? Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
It's really exciting, because there's so many options for people, right?
Exactly.
And to know that they're coming back for yours is really cool.
Yeah.
But sorry, you were asking me a different question.
No, that's okay. I've forgotten it, so let's just move on. It's all good. I wanted to ask you, was jam ever a major part of your life? Like, is there nostalgia with jam for you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, just recently with the royal wedding.
Oh yeah.
There's a connection.
Okay.
I'll help you figure it out.
Okay, 6 degrees.
Yeah. So I sold jam tarts at a spring show for the first time. I've never offered my baked goods for sale until just recently, and it was wonderful. It was a super good experience. And one of the guys who came by was like, jam tarts? I've been looking everywhere for jam tarts. I'm like, what?
Well,
That's
of course
a thing?
you have.
So he's like, yeah, we're having a party at my office where I work, and it's royal wedding theme.
Oh, cool.
And jam tarts are a British thing.
Okay.
And I'm like, well,
Sure.
here's my number. So I gave him, I did a custom order of these jam tarts for him. And then I was talking to this British friend of mine. I'm like, is that actually a thing? He's like, yeah, I'd go to the, when I'd go to the bakery, that's what I would get when I was a kid.
Right.
I'm like, oh, cool.
Wow.
And then I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, my grandma, she totally introduced me to the whole jam tart idea, because she was an amazing pie maker, and I did not like pie.
Ooh.
I know, it was weird. It took me until I was 25 to eat
Oh my God.
pumpkin
How dare
pie.
you?
It was
How dare
so bizarre. But she would, because of my weirdness, she would make me raspberry jam tarts.
Amazing.
And I'm just like, no wonder I love these so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'd go, it was our job. She'd make jam
Okay.
every summer. And there was an adjacent property that had a wicked bramble patch, and they're quite wild.
Mm-hmm.
So there's black raspberries, there's regular raspberries. And she's like, you want jam? Go get them.
Amazing.
So we'd go across to Mrs. Walker's house. And
Okay. Shout out Mrs. Walker.
Yep. She's awesome. Well, she's long gone now, but she's a very old lady living totally off the grid, totally by herself.
Wow.
We'd show up. She'd give us like $1. It was the cutest thing. She's
I'm
like,
sure the
"Hi,
bramble
kids."
patch still lives on.
Maybe.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah.
It is something that you have a lot of nostalgia with.
Totally.
Because my relationship with jam was, and God love my mom, she's such a powerful and amazing woman. So shout out to my mom. Love you, Mom. She would either buy us Kraft raspberry, which I just crushed as a kid, or my mom was a teacher, and she also looked after kids after school, like out in the home. And she would buy these massive plastic blue buckets of jam.
Oh wow.
I don't know what it was or what was in it, but it definitely wasn't low sugar. And the point of me telling my story with jam is, having tried your product now, it is completely different.
It is. It's not me too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So again, if anyone that's listening or watching, if you haven't tried Natalie's product, please go and do it, because it is, although it wasn't something I reminisced having as a child, it was still nostalgic for me. Lindsay and I just finished off a jar of your blueberry jam. And I don't know what it was about it, but it just it tasted like I was eating like blueberry pie filling.
Yeah.
It was that good.
It's because of the spices. There's cinnamon in
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And is that something that you think of when you're creating it, is to try and create nostalgia, or to try and emulate flavors that someone or the population would have had before?
Yes and no. There's things that I really wanted to put out there that would be unique and a kind of a pleasant surprise for folks. So, for example, blackberry with orange blossom and lime, like those, to me, I've not seen them put together elsewhere. And although they seem like a logical combination, it still hadn't been done as far as I've experienced.
Right.
Whereas, for example, apricot and hops, it's a cider offering on a, in a lot of different small cideries. So that one, it's not been made into a jam necessarily, but it's a flavor combination that has been had before. So yes and no. As far as like creating a nostalgia, I guess I haven't really thought on those lines specifically with the flavor combinations as much as I have in wanting to create these like enjoyable kind of traditional food rituals that people tend to have in their lives, like at least in North America. You know, jam is a thing
for sure. And obviously in Britain as well.
Yes, yeah.
In the form of a tart,
right? But just to still create an opportunity for that indulgence to still happen, without it being too indulgent, and kind of still make it part of your regular life, but not, special enough because it's not the cheapest option, but still enjoyable in that kind of grandma sort of feeling,
for sure,
but without the extraordinary amounts of sugar.
Yeah. So to that point, as I'm eating it, I'm thinking again about my father, another fatherism. Shout out Dad. He says, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Okay. So as I'm eating your blueberry jam 2 weeks ago, I'm saying to myself, like, how can this be
possible?
How can this be so good? And is it because you're adding those other flavors and spices and complementing, or is it just is? The
trade-off, the only trade-off is that you have to consume it faster.
Right.
That's the only trade-off.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to include visuals, if you keep a jar on your counter exposed to light for an entire year, it's going to look brown or dingy. I mean, the dark berries, you don't see a difference, but like the plum or the apricot, you're going to see a color difference, because when the fruit is not completely saturated and suspended by sugar, it will be affected by light. It'll be affected by air. So once you open the jar, you can't leave it in the back of your fridge.
Right.
Like you can't just forget about it like a ketchup condiment kind of thing, or a standard jam, because there is unsaturated water in there.
Right.
Because there's not so much sugar.
Right.
When you make a traditional preserve, you're saturating like your I don't know how to best way to say it. It's basically you're taking up all of the water
with the sugar,
which will prevent mold.
Okay.
So when you don't have that situation, mold will form on the top.
What a great business model. You've created a product that's not only delicious, but you have to eat it quickly and then refill it back up.
Yeah.
Lindsay's the same way with the certain kombucha that we purchased. She's like, I have to drink it quickly so I can fill it back up again. Yeah. So kudos to you for creating that.
I don't really mean for it to be that way.
No, but it's great.
And I do tell people, if they don't feel like they're going to eat it fast enough, put it in the freezer, because then you can just, suspend that situation and then eat it later. So I'm not trying to push it on people in that way.
Right. It's
just that is the trade-off.
But also, if you want to go and buy copious amounts of it, eat it and then buy more.
Yeah, that's also okay with me.
Okay, cool. Now, you did mention briefly again before we got on air about, again, ideals. I know you talked about maybe at some point, maybe, who knows, there being brick and mortar, who knows. But something that you were hopefully looking into is larger scale sales, so wholesale. So what would that look like for you? And do you enjoy the sales aspect of your job? Because obviously there's a lot that you do. Is a sales aspect of what you do, is that attractive? And are you already going down that path of wholesale or not?
Wholesale is what I'm primarily doing. So it's just dependent on the scale.
Yeah.
Things.
So I guess I'm talking more to restaurants, hotels, people that are going to have it on the menu and they're going to be buying it, like I was saying, in gallons as opposed to
like
small
food
jars.
Service.
Food service, pardon me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is that something you've gone down that path yet and tried? Okay.
Yeah. So I do have a few, like for example, 33 Acres. They're one of my most consistent.
Awesome.
They put it on their menu, and so those are great accounts to have because of the consistency and the volume that they're going through. Also, the physical labor of creating larger volume containment is easier on the body.
Right. So, and then who else would be kind of your ideal customer in the food service side of things?
Anyone who wants to serve jam with a baked thing, basically. Right. Trying to think of other folks. There was one great place, but they closed down. It was a tea house. No. They were serving bannock with butter and my jam, so that was really nice. So yeah, I mean, there's opportunities for savory stuff to go out. Odd Society Distillery uses my onion jam on their charcuterie board.
Oh, perfect.
And I also use their vodka in the onion jam.
Oh, so there you go.
It's really nice. I love that. So yeah, I'd love to do more of that. It's just a matter of, getting your, like, it's, for me, it's a bit of a struggle. I don't want to suggest that I only pursue things that come my way. Yeah. Because I have tried to pursue things that haven't been on the radar, but I've been very lucky in that a lot of interest has come my way and questions have come directly to me, so I can respond to those ones specifically and kind of I can stay a little bit chicken. Yeah. Which is not necessarily a good thing.
No, but you're just testing your waters. It's like doing the preserving nights.
Right.
Way back when, right?
Yeah.
That was just you just kind of going through the process.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to butcher the quote a bit, but it's like you are where you are right now where you need to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I am a very organic kind of thinking person as far as like I need to say something to myself, if not out loud, over and over enough times for it to become more real and more possible and more like actually attainable.
Right.
So I move slowly. There's people in my same industry, maybe not in my product category, but who are just, they maybe don't own their own home and have children, but they are like, making this go and, getting their own facility and doing their whole deal and distributing cross country. Like, that's awesome. And I hold those people up. Yeah. I know that about myself, that I'm slower.
So if someone did own restaurants, cafes, they wanted to reach out, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and place an order, or at least have that conversation?
eastvanjam@shaw.ca.
eastvanjam@shaw.ca. Be sure to check that out. That's my email
address.
I like it.
Yeah, just send me an email. We'll talk.
Awesome.
Yeah.
In the interest of being succinct and not keeping you too long, I just had a few more questions before I let you go.
Okay. Try not to ramble.
Yeah, no, not at all. You've been awesome. This has been super fun, and I appreciate it. And the weather's cooperated, which has been nice. Yeah. But seeing as this is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, I have for you the 2 questions. First one is the half a dozen have-tos. So what are 1 to 6, half a dozen, of your have-tos for everyone to hear and listen to? So either it's a trip that you've taken that someone else has to try. It's a product that you've had that someone else has to try. It's a utensil in the kitchen. It is a mothering strategy, whatever it is. What are your 1 to a half a dozen have-tos?
Okay, well, since you said mothering strategy,
share.
The first thing that comes to mind is believe in yourself. Don't doubt yourself.
Okay.
You are the master of that kingdom.
Yes.
And only take advice that you ask for.
I love that. To all you mothers out there, mothers to be, listen up. Sound advice.
Yeah, I wish I had been given that piece.
Okay, awesome.
Because it's not super specific, but it takes care of everything.
Awesome.
Yeah. Utensil in my kitchen.
Sure, it can be that. It can be it can be a piece of clothing that you bought. It can be a trip that you've taken. It can be a show that you. It can be a
Oh my
movie that you
God.
just went to.
Oh my
Something
God.
that someone else has to do. Guys, girls, you have to try this. A plate of pasta somewhere, whatever.
I don't get out enough, man.
No?
I will say though, like I've mentioned earlier, if you find a couple pots to grow something in, growing something is just, I think, such a soul building thing.
I love
It
that.
works for me for sure, but
Yeah.
it may not be for everyone. But I think anyone who tries it, I think it changes their
Yeah,
mind.
I think innately in all of us there is that little piece. I mean, way back when, that's how kind of we all did it. So
Mhm.
I think everyone, whether you wear a suit to work every day or flip flops, it's something you should definitely do. So
Yeah.
it's solid. It's solid. Have to. The second one is the half a dozen haven't yets. So
Haven't
one
yets.
to
God.
a half a dozen.
You should have given me this.
I
in
know.
advance.
I don't prompt anyone. I want it to be as organic as it can be. So 1 to 6, 1 to half a dozen things you haven't done yet that you want to do. Again, a trip you haven't taken, a meal you haven't had, a restaurant you haven't tried, a movie you haven't seen, a
'Kay.
song you haven't heard.
Top of the list is I really want to experience and watch a cold pressing of olives.
Okay. You said with so much restraint, like I was going to judge you for it. I'm not judging. I think it's great. It's a little geeky, but
It's
we'll
super
go with
geeky.
it.
I really want to experience that part. I want to be in an olive grove, and I want it to be like the old fashioned way with giant
Okay.
concrete.
Let's facilitate
Yeah.
that somehow for you.
So yeah, Italy. I haven't been to Luigi's. Ask Luigi's.
Oh, ask for Luigi.
Yeah, I
You need to
haven't-
go. They have a fantastic brunch, and dare I say, their brunch menu, pardon me, maybe should include East Van
Some
Jam.
jam.
Ask for Luigi if you're listening. What is it? eastvanjam@shaw.ca.
Yeah, that's my email
hit her
address.
up.
What else do I need to do that I haven't? Gosh, that's tough, Brad.
Two's good.
Two's
Two's good.
all you
Some
get right
guests guest one, and then they just start to flop sweat, and they're like, "Can we cut this off
now. I
right
am
now?"
sweating a little bit.
So we will end it there. But before I
Okay.
do let you go, I wanted to say thank you again so much for inviting me
Thank
into your
you.
space. And thank you so much for doing what you do. You inspire myself and many, many others. Not only is your product fantastic, but the message that you bring with it is truly, truly genuine.
Cool.
And we as a community appreciate you and what you do.
That's so nice. Thank
yeah,
you.
No, thank you so much. So, guys, thank you again for listening in and watching. Check us out again next week for a brand new episode. And in the meantime, if you want to get a hold of East Van Jam, either buy the product or order some for jam tarts
So
at
the-
your office party, the best way to get a hold of you is
Well, their website is, eastvanjam.com.
.com.
And then my email address is the ones we've already mentioned.
Right. And then
Um,
social media,
Yeah, I'm only on Instagram.
only on Instagram
Yeah.
right now. Who knows what the future will hold.
I can only handle one.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys so much again. Have a fantastic day. Until next time, be good and do good.